to you is success and millions and billions.
22 and 49.
Diddy is 49 years old.
Oh, man.
That is a 27-year difference.
She was never expected to be pregnant, especially not tied to him. For a long time, people believed the Lori Harvey situation ended the moment she stepped away from Diddy's chaos, assuming the rumors about his parties were nothing more than celebrity gossip. That belief collapses once a leak surfaces that reframes everything. Sources now allege that footage exists showing Lori allegedly pressured into a night involving Jay-Z during one of Diddy's private gatherings, often referred to as freak-offs. According to insiders, her silence was not accidental. It was arranged before timelines could connect and questions became unavoidable. Those same insiders point back to the 2019 Rock Nation brunch, when Beyoncé's fans flooded Lori's Instagram after she was seen smiling near Jay-Z. That moment now gets re-examined alongside federal trafficking charges filed against Diddy in September 2024, and multiple lawsuits accusing both moguls of recorded encounters involving guests who were allegedly incapacitated. One insider claims Lori vanished from public events for weeks. Another insists a pregnancy was quietly handled after Beyoncé allegedly confronted Jay-Z behind closed doors. If that version holds any truth, it raises uncomfortable questions. Why did Lori suddenly disable comments? Why did Jay-Z and Diddy suddenly move in sync? And why did Beyoncé cancel 2 public appearances during the same period? The public explanation does not line up with the private reaction, and that disconnect is the signal. The real issue is not who was involved with whom, it is who controlled the cameras and who may still have the footage. Inside the industry, the initial response was not outrage but calculation. Diddy's team reportedly moved quickly, collecting phones, freezing group chats, and sending coded messages insiders say translate to one directive: stay quiet until it is clear who is talking.
Her mother is 54 years old. Her mother is 5 years older than Puffy.
Jay-Z's camp offered no statement, not even a denial, just the same polished silence that has protected the empire for years. Beyoncé's team went quiet as well. Her stylist canceled 2 fittings, and witnesses say the Carters began entering their Manhattan office separately. Insiders now claim the footage that triggered panic did not come from a hacker, but from someone within Diddy's former inner circle, a person no longer willing to stay afraid. The timing lines up. Federal agents raided Diddy's Los Angeles home last year amid trafficking allegations, and former collaborators have described him as someone who documented everything. Suddenly, Lori's extended absence, the abrupt unfollowing, and the talk of personal recovery appear less like emotional fallout and more like cleanup. No one has publicly confirmed a pregnancy. Still, 2 separate stylists claim she canceled a shoot in late 2019 after being sick for days. At that point, the situation begins to feel less like coincidence and more like coordination. People remember the Italy photos, Lori smiling on Diddy's yacht beside a man twice her age, just weeks after she had been seen with his son. At the time, the public brushed it off as another Hollywood situation. Sources now describe that trip as the beginning of her induction into Diddy's private world. He was grieving, but he was also hosting tightly controlled gatherings, the same type later described in lawsuits as power-driven environments. The 2024 filings mention recorded encounters involving multiple men, and while names were withheld, the implications were noticeable. One complaint included initials that matched Jay-Z's, and insiders say his legal team contacted Diddy's lawyers before the story became public. Lawyer to lawyer, a preemptive alignment. Lori's name does not appear in the filings, but her proximity to both men has become difficult to ignore.
I know so much on how you got where you are, how you stepped on many people.
Her stepfather, Steve Harvey, allegedly tried to pull her away that same summer, urging her to focus on brand deals instead. Instead, she returned to New York for Diddy's white party, where multiple attendees now claim they saw her leave through a side entrance after midnight. That detail carries more weight when insiders explain that this was typically when cameras were turned off for everyone except Diddy. By early 2020, the cracks widened. Lori deleted dozens of photos, turned off comments, and quietly flew to Dubai. Beyoncé's fan base interpreted the silence as guilt, flooding Lori's old posts with B emojis while Beyoncé appeared at the Grammys in a gown rumored to be intentionally chosen, a quiet statement about control. What is rarely discussed is that Jay-Z abruptly canceled a London meeting that same week with no explanation. In this situation, it is not a single move that stands out, it is the pattern that keeps repeating. People close to the Carters say the tension turned physical behind closed doors. A shattered glass, a phone thrown across the room, staff quietly dismissed for hearing too much. Jay-Z, a man who built his entire empire on control and discretion, suddenly appeared boxed in. When Diddy's former partner Cassie filed her explosive lawsuit in 2023, detailing years of alleged coercion, insiders say the industry already knew what domino would fall next. They had seen the recordings. The Cassie case settled almost immediately for undisclosed millions, but it wasn't the money that shook people. It was the federal investigation that followed. That was the moment whispers about a second archive of recordings began spreading. Footage involving younger celebrities who later rebranded themselves as fashion figures and polished brand ambassadors. Lori's name circulated in those conversations, often paired with Jay's, always spoken quietly.
Jay?
Yeah.
At this point? It's, I would want, why?
Right, just that.
This is where the narrative breaks. The public image of Diddy and Jay-Z's friendship has always been sold as legacy, two icons building side by side. But now it reads less like brotherhood and more like mutual insurance. They've been linked since the late 1990s, survived eerily similar legal crises, and cycled through overlapping legal teams. When a 2024 amended lawsuit accused Jay-Z of involvement in concealment efforts connected to Diddy, insiders say it wasn't shocking, it was confirmation. Both camps relied on the same publicist. That detail matters. This was never about proving guilt or innocence. It was about locking down control. The narrative, the money, the NDAs, the fear. What makes the latest leak so dangerous is not spreadsheets or financial misconduct, it's intimacy. Recordings from private nights where the most powerful figures in music allegedly crossed lines they cannot rebrand away. That is what Beyoncé is rumored to have learned the hard way. Insiders point to frantic calls made by her team to Diddy's legal representatives just weeks ago, suggesting she may have seen part of what exists on those drives. The silence that followed felt less like denial and more like chess. Every endorsement, every tour plan, every release schedule suddenly hinged on containing whatever those recordings show. Industry pressure is now described as suffocating. Anyone tied to the Roc Nation orbit is scrubbing associations, editing timelines, reframing relationships. Photographers who once shot Diddy's private events are quietly deleting archives. A former assistant claims she was offered six figures through a third party to forget entire years of her life. Even Lori's recent business decisions are being re-examined. Her pivot toward luxury skincare and her carefully staged return to public life feel calculated, like steps in an exit strategy drawn up long ago. The irony is that none of these players are strangers to scandal. What's new is the loss of control. The quiet belief spreading now is that Diddy's collapse isn't about parties at all, it's about what the recordings reveal regarding alliances built around them. That's where the fear multiplies. If one tape links Lori, Jay, and Diddy, how many others connect to the rest of the industry? The harder they try to contain it, the louder the silence becomes.
But after that major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about Jay-Z and his nefarious past, okay?
Then comes the contradiction no one can resolve. If Lori was wronged, why is she still so heavily protected? If she wasn't, why does every insider treat her like someone holding leverage? The same voices that once mocked her as a social climber now rush to defend her character. Off the record, sources split. One claims she was promised long-term protection in exchange for staying quiet. Another insists she holds enough leverage to bring everything down if she chooses. Beyoncé's public composure reads differently now. Less forgiveness, more warning. She performs, smiles, then disappears again. Jay-Z launches new ventures with the usual confidence, but observers note the tension in his eyes. The look of someone waiting for the next headline. Federal investigators are still reviewing hard drives seized from Diddy's properties. Insiders say some files were labeled only by initials. None of this has been confirmed publicly, but within industry circles, people believe they know what LH refers to. And if those initials ever align with known timelines, especially dates tied to that brunch, the fallout would be massive. This story doesn't end with embarrassment, it ends with structural collapse. The deeper insiders dig, the more it looks engineered. What's happening now isn't chaos, it's cleanup. Executives who once shielded both men are now quietly cooperating with federal authorities after securing immunity. That shift reveals how high this goes. One name continues to surface in the background. A former Roc Nation aide allegedly responsible for handling off-the-books payments between 2018 and 2021. Insiders say this individual delivered envelopes, arranged wellness retreats, and negotiated silence agreements for those entangled with both moguls. What makes that detail unsettling is how many recipients were influencers, models, and proteges tied to brands that have since cut all connections. This isn't scandal at the top. It's an entire network dismantling itself before subpoenas arrive. Lawyers call it protection, insiders call it triage. And when it's revealed that several of those so-called retreats occurred at properties now under federal seizure, coincidence stops being a viable explanation. The Cassie settlement, once framed as closure, now looks like a blueprint. The rumored 8-figure payout wasn't about resolution, it was about containment. After that deal, smaller settlements quietly rippled through entertainment circles. None were publicized.
And he was asking about her, and then he was asking me stuff like, would you be interested in, like, somebody watching? He was just asking some really, really bugged out questions. And I still have those emails. I still have all that, So, like, that's one of the things that I was going to include in the book. I'm just trying to figure out how I would do that.
One stylist allegedly signed hers in March 2024, claiming she had been filmed without consent during a performance-related gathering. Years earlier, an assistant quietly relocated overseas. Their silence created the illusion of calm. Behind it, executives were repositioning assets. Jay-Z withdrew from multiple joint ventures that same year, officially citing restructuring. Inside the industry, few believe that explanation anymore. As Beyoncé's foundation quietly reshuffles its board, people close to her say she's preparing for collateral fallout. Not just personal consequences, but corporate ones, the kind capable of collapsing billion-dollar partnerships overnight. This moment has moved far beyond rumor or romance. It's now about the architecture of fame itself, built on agreements no one was meant to inspect too closely. When checks reach that size, they're no longer about image protection. They're about erasing paper trails. And that's when loyalty starts to haunt everyone involved. Former allies who once praised Diddy now avoid his name entirely, treating it like a contagion. Still, few are willing to speak plainly. Instead, former artists tied to his label have begun posting cryptic messages online. One wrote, "You can't erase what's recorded." Another shared a photo of an unmarked USB drive with the caption, "Insurance." The fear behind those posts is unmistakable. Not fear of what exists, but fear of who might release it. Sources in Los Angeles describe a secure vault connected to Diddy's inner circle. According to insiders, it allegedly holds footage of influential figures compromising themselves during private gatherings that blurred the line between business and indulgence. Executives, politicians, philanthropists, people whose authority rests on the very culture these men shaped. That's the real asset here. Not wealth or fame, but leverage. The recordings were insurance against betrayal, and everyone involved understood that. Now that Diddy faces potential criminal exposure, that leverage has become radioactive. If the vault exists and if it's uncovered, it wouldn't just end careers, it would redraw the power map entirely.
The best advice they've given you?
Just remember that you're the prize at all times.
Boom.
Best advice.
Meanwhile, the silence from the Carters grows heavier as the pressure intensifies. Beyoncé's team schedules appearances, cancels them, then reschedules smaller, tightly controlled events. Loyal press only. Controlled access. Every performance feels deliberate. Her lyrics sharpen into messages insiders believe aren't meant for the public. Jay-Z, meanwhile, continues forming partnerships overseas beyond U.S. jurisdiction. Those tracking these shifts say it's less about growth and more about repositioning, an effort to move assets and relationships before the next investigative wave arrives. The irony is impossible to miss. Every protective move draws more attention to what's being protected. Fans interpret Beyoncé's composure as grace. Insiders call it survival. When loyalty becomes contractual, even a marriage starts to resemble a merger. People who've worked near them describe a low-level paranoia. Phones left outside rooms. Meetings ending the moment Diddy's name surfaces. What was once gossip is now treated like classified material. The pressure isn't closing in. It's being padded, soundproofed. Old scandals are being reread with new eyes. The elevator confrontation involving Solange, once dismissed as family drama, now feels like an early warning. People close to her claim she knew too much, that her anger wasn't jealousy but alarm. She recognized patterns. Women drawn into Diddy's orbit, elevated briefly, then discarded once inconvenient. Those same sources insist that what happened that night in 2014 had nothing to do with infidelity. It was about leverage, about a threat directed at her sister. When moments are laid side by side, the brunch smile, the yacht appearance, the quiet settlements, they align like stages in a system designed around control. None of it appears random. Every silence looks negotiated. One entertainment lawyer put it bluntly. They didn't build an empire on loyalty, they built it on transactions disguised as loyalty. The public sees style and legacy. Insiders see files, NDAs, and exit clauses. It's not that everyone knew, it's that knowing felt safer than speaking. And when traced fully, it becomes clear this isn't a chain of scandals. It's a business model unraveling in real time. As federal agencies prepare their next filings, the industry's tone has shifted from denial to dread. Music executives are holding emergency meetings. Lawyers are briefing clients on crisis response plans. Private security firms are receiving urgent requests related to digital asset recovery. No one publicly states what's being recovered, but everyone understands. There's talk of offshore servers, missing footage, encrypted backups stored under shell companies. People who once sold transparency as a brand value now move like fugitives from their own image. Lori Harvey, still silent, becomes an unintended symbol of the fallout. Every appearance, every post, every absence gets analyzed for coded meaning. She doesn't need to speak. Her continued presence alone suggests that someone survived the machine. But insiders caution that no one ever exits that world cleanly. Power defends itself through fear, and fear spreads faster than any headline. The empire may still be standing, but the foundation is visibly cracking. What leaks through isn't rumor. It's evidence of how fame survives on silence. And as the story widens, attention always returns to the unseen footage. Some claim it's already been duplicated, circulated quietly among insiders like currency. Others insist it was destroyed when raids began. But behavior tells a different story. Too many sudden vacations, too many abrupt retirements, too many rebranded projects to be coincidence. Each new leak reignites speculation about what remains hidden. The architects of culture now appear trapped by it. The public is left assembling clues from movements rather than statements. Deleted posts, sudden apologies, shifting alliances. The silence between these moments is overwhelming. And within that silence sits the truth. Not in what's admitted, but in what's too dangerous to name. So the question lingers, what happens when loyalty becomes liability? When footage everyone swore didn't exist reaches the right inboxes? Does Beyoncé hold the line, or does she dismantle the empire to protect herself? Does Lori speak or allow the system to collapse under its own weight? And what if Diddy's vault isn't the only one? Every theory points inward. Because the closer this story moves toward the center, the more it feels like everyone is standing on the edge of the same secret.